Welcome, lady and or gentleman, to the Spooky Chris podcast. This is the aforementioned Spooky Chris Ringler, author, occasional oddball, and ne'er-do-well. You can find all of my, as I am a writer, you can find all my info, my blogs, my info about my books, everything you could want at my website, spookychris.com. There's an archive of all of my podcasts if you were interested in finding more. So, basically, for those that may never have heard me before, and I doubt there's anyone that listens to begin with, so these are short-form kind of podcasts where I just kind of get into the random weirdnesses that pop in my head. This time around, I thought I would talk about kind of old-school horror. So I recently saw Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the adaptation of the famous young adult book trilogy. And for those that, I can't imagine that there's many people out there that have never read those or heard of those books before. They were kind of infamous more than anything for the artwork. It was very minimalistic artwork that was very evocative and gave you, like in the stories themselves were folk tales that were kind of like scary stories, but they were folk type stories. And it was the minimalistic artwork that just seemed to tap into something primordial and very immediate and just got to you. And it was that artwork that really brought attention, both negative and positive, to the books and got them banned in many spots. Well, there's a new adaptation that had recently come out, and I finally got a chance to see that, and it was amazing. I loved it. To me, it captured not even just the feel of the books and the stories, but it captured kind of that. There's a weird gray area that's hard to hit, and very few movies are able to. Where it's kind of it's a movie for all ages, but for children, but it's scary. And it taps into that, and it doesn't dumb down itself. It doesn't talk down to kids. It doesn't act like kids are they're neither angels nor devils. They're just kids. And this really did a great job of doing that. And it makes me miss those kinds of movies. Like those were kind of prevalent in the 80s. And you'll find them once in a while, like movies that don't need gore, don't need sex, they can tell a scary story or a story with some depth to it, and not dumb themselves down, thinking, well, kids are stupid, so we need to dumb this down. Not treating the audience as if they're stupid. And it's one of those things where these kinds of movies are so special to me, because when you look at Trick or Treat is one of those movies where it's a Halloween movie, and this is Scary Stories is a Halloween movie, where it really evokes a feel like of a place and a time and a season, and Scary Stories does that. Like, it really does the small things very well, and it puts you in those places. That's what's weird. Rob Zombie does such a great job of decorating like the backgrounds of his movies, and the sets are great. And like he makes those living, breathing places, and it's just the characters are just kind of like cutout dolls that are kind of moving around, spouting kind of nonsense in most of his movies, which is a bummer. Even the ones that are great, like oh my gosh, Devil's Rejects has some pretty groan-worthy dialogue, which it's rock star kind of dialogue where it's like, oh, this would be great in a song, but it doesn't really translate to a movie and someone saying it. But I loved Scary Stories. Like the physical effects is something that we don't get a lot of these days. It's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. I think you've reached a point where it's gotten a little less expensive to do that, and a little more expensive to do the computer stuff, and just for the amount of people you have to hire to do CGI comparatively, I think there's a nostalgic feel to going back. Like a lot of the people, up and coming directors, remember these movies from the 80s and 70s and even 90s. And physical effects take you there, brings you there. Like it makes it brings things to life. And I mean, I can't imagine how much easier it is to act against a physical effect than as opposed to a something that's like a prop or a digital if you've ever seen digital effects and how they work, a stick with green dots or something like that, and acting against something that takes up space, has a presence. It would bring more to me. It would bring more out. I can see where I could get more into that. And in that, it brings more out of the audience. It brings more, to the whole thing. It just kind of completes things and makes you feel like this is real. And the dangers in the movie, in Scary Stories, I mean, they feel palpable. And I saw somebody kind of complain, they were upset that there wasn't more. One story from the book was about it's Harold, about a scarecrow that comes to life, and people were upset that he wasn't in it more. But the thing is that it's much like the movie Alien. You run the risk of overdoing it, and it's better to kind of underdo it with something like this than to overdo it. You don't want to lean into, he's a scarecrow, and then the story goes that he's a scarecrow that is mistreated by these farmers, and he comes to life, and he steals the skin of one of them. It's a nasty little story. But it's better to do less than to do more, because you don't want to walk out of it that's why I laugh too about the Godzilla movies. Is the first new one, people complain how little you saw him, and it's but it was effective. You remember the times you saw him. There's something to be said for that. Instead of too much, oh, there he is again. There it is again. There it is again. With Harold, he's so creepy. The less you see him, think of, for anyone that's seen Friday the 13th, the original movie, and Jason Voorhees is in it for 6 seconds, I think. And it's memorable, and it's scary, and it makes you think Jason's in the whole movie. Because it's memorable, and it's creepy, and it's scary. And there's something to be said for that. So the reason I love Blair Witch Project and all of those kind of movies of that ilk are this mentality of campfire tales, and they're minimalistic, but they get the story right, and that's what I always rail about haunted houses about is get the story right, and the rest you can build. You can have some cheesy effects if you display it wisely. It's whether or not people believe the story, because that's what they're going to remember. It's oh yeah, I saw a clown alien, scary. I saw a clown with a chainsaw, scary. But if you make that clown with a chainsaw mean something, that's what matters. I went to a haunted house years and years ago when I lived in a different town, and it was great. This haunted house, it was a trail and a hayride and a house. And they nailed it because they had a story, and they had it had a solid, good story, and that's what made the whole experience mean more and kind of scarier as a whole. And that's the thing is in building a horror movie, it's the same way. You have to build a story and then build up from there. It's great, and it's great to have a great creature, but there's a million movies that have a great creature that are just terrible. And it's cool, you have memorable special effect with nothing around it. And that's one of the reasons I loved it so much, is the story was so solid. The film, I love the book, but with the film, the story was so solid, and the kids were great. And the fact then that you can build from, an actor with Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, and it gives them something to play against, and it's you don't see him a lot in the movie, but when you see him, it's effective. Because he is so invasive, the horror is so invasive that you can't avoid it. He doesn't have to even be in scenes, and just to talk about him, and you're scared. And that's what it's about, is the feeling, and that's why I love Scary Stories. Is the movie isn't just about like the things that happen. It's about the kids that it happens to. It's about the world they live in. They built a world where it was, the movie's set around the Vietnam War, and that plays a part in it. And it plays a part in some of the actions of one of the characters. So they built that story and then built outwards. They knew what kind of monstery things, like scary things, they wanted to use, but by allowing themselves to kind of build it from the characters out, from the story, and then the horror is pervasive through the whole thing. If you look at the series of Haunting of Hill House that's on Netflix, it works so wonderfully because you care about the characters, and the horror is so pervasive that like even little glimpses of things and like rumors of things, and there's, because funny, if you had never looked into it, there's ghosts through the whole show, like everywhere. And it's fascinating because they hid them places. And it was super great because they were just in the background, and it was enough because part of you saw them, and it just added to the whole atmosphere of horror. Like, not every scene needs a monster, not every scene needs the killer, not every scene needs a ghost. It's building kind of an internal mythology even, so that when you do see them, it means something. It means it's scary because you attribute horrific things to them. Hannibal Lecter is this gentleman, and then in the movies, and then you hear these stories of him, and then when you see what he does late in the movies, you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Like it's things click finally. Like you put one and two together. And we underestimate the power of the mind, and like to create these horrific things. I love some of the no sleeps on Reddit or creepypastas you'll find, like a well done one, and you can find them. Like they're first person short stories that are just basically kind of the meat of a story, usually the best ones. And they're starting to get adapted, but they can be so powerful because it's really just like it's the punch. But they're effective because they draw you in to the immediacy of it, and it's all in your mind. It's all kind of like in the first person thing. Like it puts you in there. These don't need to be deep movies or stories per se, because they're done in such a way that it weaves a spell, like a campfire story. And again, that's why Scary Stories Tell in the Dark, Blair Witch, all of these kind of movies that seem simple, and there's depth beneath it. Like the initial layer is very simple. Witch in the Woods, Scary Stories, you can just say those are kind of cautionary tales, and many times, most of those fairy tales kind of things, cautionary tales. But all that, there's depth to it, there's layers to it, and it's how you do it. And so many horror films, especially, neglect that, and they just go for the gore, they go for the sex, they go for the like trailer scenes, and they neglect kind of the heart, and that's a core story. And I miss that. I miss that in so many movies, in pieces of literature and art. Even a piece of art, you can have something that's like has kind of secrets to tell, secrets to reveal. But it's great to discover those things. It's funny when you think of The Thing, the 1982 adaptation from Carpenter, and how people just like, it's not E.T., and just kind of dismissed it, said it wasn't any good, it was very shallow, except it's not. It's very interesting, and it plays into these ideas of what, personal prejudices and fears, and like all of these things that we have internally, and then this creature kind of represents so much. And the story is so claustrophobic, and it makes you feel, like the cold and the being trapped. It's so effective. But it is minimalistic when you think about it. And there's a lot of power in that. And yeah, like, in essence, I just loved the heck out of Scary Stories Tell in the Dark. It was fantastic. I really hope they do make more, because there's more to adapt. And if you can keep that initial kind of what they tapped into, and that was basically build a story and then wove these scary stories into it, that worked so well. And I liked that the movie had consequences. Like, not everything turns out great for everyone, and that's great. That's fantastic, because horror has consequences, and that's great. It shouldn't be punishing. I hate, I've gotten to an age where I like horror that punishes you, where it's just meaninglessly and needlessly nihilistic. Like, it just means nothing. If it's for nothing and it means nothing, I've kind of seen it, and it can still be effective, but I've kind of seen that, been there, done that. I want it to mean something. I want it to be something. You can be as bleak and nasty as you want. I just want it to mean something. So that's where I'm at. I loved scary stories. I love some of that old school horror. It's getting near Halloween. What are some of your favorite old school horror, or just like new school? What are your favorite minimalistic horror movies? I'm getting excited for the season, though, for sure. And I look forward to it. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.